1980s was an incredibly momentous decade. At the beginning of the decade, the Cold War still raged, and we all lived under the threat of imminent nuclear war. By the last year of the decade, the Berlin Wall had fallen, ushering in the new world order that we now live in. The internet really didn't exist in the 1980s. Music had some fantastic stuff going on with people like Madonna, Michael Jackson, U2, Guns N' Roses at the end of the decade. Phil Collins was massive. We had Live Aid, one of the biggest concerts ever, taking place in 2 places across the world. Nelson Mandela was still in prison in South Africa. People were campaigning against apartheid, which now is long gone, thank goodness, but you can't believe that recently such a thing still existed. The AIDS epidemic spread across the world. There were incredible things going on when you look back at it. And today, we look at one very small corner of what was happening in the 1980s, and that is the world of male fragrance releases, which there are some absolute stunners from that decade, as we're about to find out. Join me and my special guest today on this odyssey through the decade that rocked the world. Hello guys, well, it's another exciting video in my, well, this is not actually part of my most cherished fragrances series, but it's a new kind of thing that I'm doing with a few reviewers actually, where we visit a certain decade. So it lends itself well to viewers with a great knowledge of old school and vintage fragrances. And we have one such person again with us here today for the second time on the channel. It's Kellen from Scents of South Jersey. Hello.
How are you, Dan? Thanks for having me.
I'm great, and thank you so much for coming on the show after what is no doubt a busy week at work for you over in what is apparently a bit of a heat wave where you are. Absolutely. In the States.
Yeah, it's been very hot.
It's kind of warm in England, but grey, so not so fun here. But never mind. Let's liven and brighten things up with some fantastic 1980s fragrances. So, yeah, we've got plenty to choose from, of course, from this absolutely great decade for fragrances. Although there weren't as many fragrances being released, of course, back then as there are nowadays. But there certainly are some absolutely classic releases, some of which are still out and available in their modern version, some of them not. I have no idea what you've picked for us, but just before we get into that, okay, we've introduced you on the channel before, so I won't do that. But everyone watching, please, there's a link in the description below, and it'll be as a comment to the Scents of South Jersey channel. If you like the kind of fragrances I often talk about, then I think you'll love some of the things Kellen introduces on his channel. I just saw that I haven't watched it yet, but it looks like a really good one that you've done on Paco Rabanne, Then and Now.
Absolutely.
What a great concept.
Got a couple different vintage variations, and I compared it with the current formula and did kind of a side-by-side and spent a whole week just wearing them back and forth and was able to do a nice contrast video up to.
That is the kind of fragrance video that I want to watch, and I think a lot of people will find really, really good. Maybe it's not a big clickbait thing, but the people who love fragrances are going to really appreciate that kind of video. So I really want to check that out. Well done to you for doing something like that. That's great. Okay, that was a 70s fragrance, of course, Paco Rabanne Bomb. So the thing I wanted to ask you, because I know you're younger than me, I presume you weren't even born in the 80s?
1988. So
okay.
The tail end doesn't really count, you know. And then I was obviously a kid in the 90s and really, you know, more so grew up in the 2000s.
Okay, so I was in 77. So this decade, the 80s for you is kind of like the 70s to me. I look back on it nostalgically, but I can't remember any of it.
Yeah,
I just arrived at the end. So I'm old enough to remember the 80s. And it was a great fun decade, culturally, so much going on. And of course, it wasn't all Madonna and you know, all the stereotypical things we think of the 80s were there, but there were so many other different things going on, and you know, sometimes it was pretty dull and drab, and we all thought that it was a boring decade, and we looked back to the 60s then. So it's weird how it goes, but nostalgia is the name of the game. So let's dive into it. First fragrance that you've picked from the 80s, please.
So in the first video we did, there were definitely two that would be on here, but since I already talked about them, I didn't want to include them and be redundant. That's Czar and Caesar's Man. So I picked out some ones. Some of them are going to be obvious for anyone that follows the channel, and some of them won't. I wanted to get some ones that are different. The first one is a very inexpensive fragrance from 1980, like a Chypre, very piney green scent, and that's going to be Jacques Bogart's One Man Show. If you can see that here. One of the first classic masculine ones I ever bought when I first started to get into the hobby and especially into reviewing. And some of the reviews about it really were just about how strong and long lasting it was, and how it was a polarizing scent, as many of the choices that I picked probably are going to be. Either you love it or you hate it. And the notes, it's got like cedar, oak moss, pine, very piney, castoreum. And it's one that I liked it. And I just loved the look of the bottle too. Just looks very retro. And it is, I don't know, there's a couple versions. This one that says highly concentrated up at the top. And I like to keep the boxes because that's where I keep them. And since you have so many, they're a little bit easier to store so they don't fall over or anything. But this one, spraying it in the air, it's just instantaneously sharp, and it lasts. And then it kind of has a real soapy dry down. And at 1980, so the beginning of the decade, and Johnny Cash apparently wore this scent. This was his signature scent. And yes, I think that's pretty cool. And yeah, I've seen that online. A couple people that I communicate with told me that as well too. So this one, and I'll still wear it even in the summertime. I enjoy it. Any fragrance I like a lot too. Have you ever tried this one?
Yes, I have it, and this is very rare for me because I nearly always totally love the things you pick. But so far, I can't quite get on with this one. I agree with the naysayers that this. I've heard a few people say it's a little bit, it's like pine toilet cleaner, or it's this kind. I mean, I found it a bit oppressive, but I must admit it's one of those. I got it as a cheapie.
Oppressive.
Yeah, I find it oppressive.
It's addictive.
I got it as a cheapie, and I've just kind of tried it out a bit, and it's then sat at the back of a cupboard. So you've made me think I'll revisit it. I love the name of it because
me too.
Apparently,
it's the name is really that's the part of the thing of the presentation of fragrance. I sometimes I talk too much about that in my reviews because they're fascinating to me how it looks. It looks goofy, right? And the name One Man Show, it's like stand out like the guy that shows up and he reeks of the smell, but I think it smells good.
I like the idea of it. I really wanted to love it, so I'm going to dig it out and revisit it now. Okay, great choice, guys. If you're interested, yep.
I was going to say, sorry, out of the 4 that I have, that's the best one. That and the oud one. The other ones I don't like. Gold or ruby, I don't really like at all. Those I feel like are just too. They don't smell good to me. But that one I do like.
From Bogart, yeah, it's a really interesting, affordable house, and they don't pull any punches with their fragrances. You got to give them that.
Yeah.
Okay, what's fragrance number 2, please?
So this one is, this is going to be one of the obvious choices, right? So this may, you think of with the 90s, you think of Aqua de Jo as being like one that had was a huge seller, and you can't deny this one, Drakkar Noir. Like Laroche, so 1982, the aromatic fougere. So I recently, on my birthday earlier this year, I finished my bottle of the current formulation I have, and this is a Cosmere one. This is a vintage bottle, so you can see. So this one is, I got this one on eBay, and it was filled no box, and the seller gave me the option if I didn't like it, I could return it, and they're not too far away from each other. Like I like the current formulation of Drakkar Noir. And this one is just greener, a little bit mossier, and lasts a little bit longer, whereas the other one's the newer formulation's a little more smooth, kind of like deodorant spray or shaving foam. But this one is unmistakable. Like if you don't know you smelled this one, you probably have smelled it and you just were not sure it was Drakkar Noir. Like this stuff, when you smell it, it is really green. And to have the vintage bottle and in 100 ml, I'm lucky because they're a little bit harder to come by. They're still out there, but this one, it just smells so great. It's very clean. And it's masculine, and I really like it. And I think a lot of people still wear it today. They may just not might brag about it because it's obviously not as popular of a fragrance as something that is released nowadays. But I absolutely love Drakkar Noir, and I think it was paved the way for so many other fragrances, either that impressions or just other fougères in general.
Yeah. I think it's a real classic. I think it was a 1982 release, wasn't it? And it's become something of I think wasn't there even a load of jokes about it on The Simpsons or something? So.
I think Family Guy did one.
That's it.
Because it's all the guys with the beards and they're like Drakkar Noir. That's all they wanted.
Yeah, it's been stigmatized unfairly, but it's actually a really, really nice classic aromatic fougere, actually.
Barbershops to the core, that scent.
Yeah,
that scent is,
which the name doesn't necessarily suggest that. Yeah, and I'm always intrigued to try it. There was an original Drakkar that's not Noir.
I never tried it. Never tried it. Yeah, this was the flanker that I looked at the cost for that, and it's obscene, and it's very rare. You'll maybe on eBay there'll be 2 sellers that have it, but this one outdid it apparently, because that you
Yeah.
don't really hear much about that one at all. But this one was the one that outshined its original, which is usually the opposite. Usually the flankers are the ones that are sort of tossed by the wayside.
100%. Yeah. It's interesting that happened. Yeah, I totally agree. I've got a modern formulation that I picked up just for the sake of the collection, and it's a really, really good, very wearable, nice fragrance. So yeah,
that's one where you don't necessarily need to have the vintage. I like the current one. I just happened to have it because that's what I had left because I finished the other bottle. So.
I certainly like my version, which is the modern one. I think it's really, really good. Okay, two beauties to start with. What's number 3, please?
Number 3, I don't know if you've ever tried this one. This is kind of lesser known, but it's one of my favorite inexpensive 80s like woody tobacco fragrances. It's Open by Roger and Gallet, or Roger and Gallet, however you want to say it. This one was my scent of the day today, so I'll spray some on my hand. It's kind of got a sharp opening, and it really is, for the money, one of the best. It's like a dry tobacco, smoky citrus scent, and it smells so good. And when it dries down, I think it's awesome in the summertime. Probably best for your fall seasons, but this stuff is so good. I go back and forth between this one and its flanker, Open Black, and this is 1985. Open Black came out in 2012. That one is like, think about a Bogart signature or a Paco Rabanne pour Homme. And the fact that this house put something like that out in 2012, I think is really cool. But I initially liked that one more than this, but this one has really grown on me. And I did a full review on it a while back, but not many people talk about this one at all. But
I've never heard of it.
Oh, you'd like it. You'd really like it. I mean, it's not like a green fragrance. A lot of this stuff is going to be green, but this one really. It smells, it's strong, and it projects. The first 2 hours, it's a big scent cloud. You can just tell, like, no matter what you do, you smell it. And I think it's awesome. And you can get it for $18, $20. So I love this stuff. Wow. This is my scent of the day today. I wore it. Yeah. You can see the box again.
Yeah. And it says Open, Roger and Gallet. And can we just see the bottle up close a little bit as well? Because it's a rather striking design.
Yeah. The cap's over here. You know what I mean? And you got and it's like this thing, the symbol there with these, like, it kind of reminded me of like an old sports logo, tennis or something like that. The swoosh and the ball there. I don't know what that's about, but
it could either be the Open, isn't it? Golf, where they have the Open, or tennis. They have tennis Open. So, and there's a ball on. So,
yeah, it could. I was thinking that, like, either a tennis or it has that vibe as well. Yeah, absolutely. So this one's, and it's just like, it's not like a sweet pipe tobacco like a pure Havana. If it was like that, I probably wouldn't enjoy it as much, but it's more of a dry, like tobacco leaf. And it's but it especially fall probably is the best scent or time frame for this. But there's citrus in it, makes it really nice, and it's a smoky citrus too, and it's a great opening, very distinct.
Yeah, wow, I really want to check that one out, and we can find that now. Obviously, that's the modern formula, and we can still buy it now.
Yeah, that's not a vintage. I wouldn't even need it to, like, that is strong. It smells excellent. The only thing I probably want to get for that would be like an aftershave, because I still see that around. I don't think that's made, but the spray is made.
Yeah. For any viewers who haven't seen me talk to Kellen in the other video, we picked up last time. You're a great fan of getting the full set where it's available. If there's an aftershave or a moisturizer, all that, you love it. Yeah. Yeah.
If there's a body line, I want to have it, because I think it really it pushes the performance, and it just is, especially with the shaving. Guys, I have a thick beard, and I do have to shave once a week. And that's each week I'll pick whatever set I want to use, and I'll use the full set, and then I'll typically either review it or, I'll go and do whatever I was planning on doing that day. So
great stuff. And that's more of an old school way of doing things, because a lot less fragrances now really promote the idea of there having that you should get, no one's really pushing the idea in a Yves Saint Laurent or something that you should get an aftershave. They don't even make aftershaves of half of them anymore. So that's somewhat of a retro way of doing things in and of itself. So I like that. That's really good. Okay, so 3 brilliant ones, and again, you always educate me, because there's at least 2 here that I didn't know. So what's number 4, please?
Number 4. So this one, I have a real love-hate relationship with the house. It's mostly hate, but I've never tried this one until recently. This is pretty new to my collection, and it is awesome. It is the original Davidoff by Davidoff. So this one here, I'll show you guys the box, so you can see. And
love it.
And it is, this is a 50 ml. It's got this lime green juice. It's the beautiful Davidoff cursive there. You can see in the box. This is probably among the strongest fragrances I've ever smelled in my life. This stuff here, I got some tester strips for this one. It's got an awesome atomizer. Really, really nice.
Wow.
And it comes off so green and so like thick green, and there's castoreum in it, which adds like a richness. Like after a while, once the greenness has kind of dried down, the mossiness, it almost has like a rich cinnamon note to it, and which normally I don't like that as much because it goes into the kind of the gourmand, which is it's almost too thick for me. But this one does it really, really well, and it's unmistakably 80s. Like there's nothing about this that doesn't say old school, masculine, outdoorsy, pine, oak moss, and then the castoreum, it gives it the animalic kind of ness of it. You can see the box again. So this one is really cool. This is a 50 ml. This is really all I could find, but it's full and it's in perfect condition. It's not sour by any means.
Right.
A friend of mine, the one that I talk about on my channel a lot, McBag. He's a collector, and he'll give samples so that you can get, if he's in the States, via eBay store, and on Instagram too. He has samples of this stuff that you can get if people want to try it. And that's how I got a sample of it first. And then I said I had to get a bottle of it because I don't like Zeno and I don't like Cool Water. And this one, though, is excellent. Why this was discontinued, it's beyond me, but that's usually the way it goes. They get rid of the good ones.
They often do. I was going to just say that. Yeah. So that one is now probably long discontinued. We can't buy that now.
Yeah. And
go. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Speaking of the body line, like they come with these things that show exactly like what you can buy. And I know it's probably difficult to see, but it's it shows the aftershave lotion, the shampoo, the soother, the shaving foam, the deodorant spray. And I keep these too just because it's like this is an advertisement and it come with it. So this is direct from whatever store it was sold at one point,
Yeah, that was very much a thing back then. Most things came with a leaflet, and it's amazing how many things they brought out. There'd be like hair tonic and stuff you can't even. I don't even know what it is nowadays, but there's stuff. Yeah, incredible flankers or whatever they call it, ancillaries and stuff to these fragrances, which is absolutely great. And wow, I feel like an amateur here because I haven't heard of that one either. Or at least
I haven't until somewhat recently, but it really. It made me appreciate the house a lot more too, because I think one of my most disliked videos ever, where I got the most thumbs down, was my review of Zeno, because I just couldn't stand that one at all. It reminded me of the Amen one, and a lot of people love it. I wanted to love that was one I was dying to really enjoy, but I just didn't. But this stuff is excellent. I'm so happy to have this one.
Yeah. You've made me really interested to try it now. And like you, I've got Zeno in its modern formula, and I always felt really excited because I've seen so many good reviews of Zeno, and it's quite good, but it hasn't. I wouldn't go as far as to say I dislike it as you seem to, but I'm with you that it doesn't strike me as one of the all-time greats, really, to be honest. Yeah, I agree with you about that.
No, it's not at all. But anyway, before I get us in trouble.
It's all right. It's all about opinions. That's what we're here for, guys. If anyone watching wants to let us know your thoughts on these reviews, please do so in the comments below. So I'm beginning to lose track of the numbers, but it doesn't matter. I think we're on number 5 now.
This would be the fifth one. Yeah, this would be the fifth one. So
what's up next?
I'm going to skip ahead one because I wanted to talk about this one because it's a lot like Zeno. And this one, I don't know if you've tried it either, but it's from Hugo Boss. It's the original Boss Sport. Yes. So this stuff is like, think about Sport de Paco Rabanne. This one really like amplifies the greenness. And this one was challenging in the beginning because it's extremely thick and comes on really strong, but then when it dries down, it's a really nice green scent, and it really gives off the active tennis vibe. Like when you look at the box, you can see even the tennis rackets right there. Boss Sport. This is a 50 ml. Yeah, and this one is a really good smell too. The active tennisness. It reminds me of the 80s, and it's very strong too. This is a 9-10 hour fragrance on my skin that'll last that strong. It's really good. Girlfriend didn't love it initially, but once it dries down, a lot of these scents, once they're on you for a good hour and a half, they start to come into their own. But this one is excellent.
Yeah. Boss Sport, absolutely. Yeah, it's a really, really great. It's kind of soapy green. I think, as you say, it smells even more retro and polarizing, I think, than Paco Rabanne Sport. It's really kind of it's a sport fragrance from the days when tennis rackets were still wooden and people wore headbands, although they were just about becoming mainly metal rackets by then. Yeah, I'm old enough to remember that the metal tennis rackets were a new concept for me growing up in the 80s. And yeah, so 1987, and I had a great little 5mm sample, which must be how it was supposed to smell. And then it's one of the few vintage ones where I've bought the full thing, and it was kind of completely wrong and ruined. So I'm
really?
still on the lookout.
That's happened to me so many times. It's unfortunate. I got that in a sample, so from that person I was just talking about, the bag, and then that's when I bought the bottle. And the eBay seller guaranteed me it was fine. And when I got it, they smell exactly the same. So I know that one's okay. But it could have easily gone the other way.
Yeah, that's the great thing. If you can get a sample and then you compare, then you've got a good gauge that they're probably, if they both smell the same, they're probably both okay, because things tend to go off in different ways. So that's always a great way to do it. But it is the roulette wheel of the vintage fragrance buyer.
Exactly.
What roughly how many in 10, if you buy a bottle, let's say, would you say are not as they should be? What do you reckon?
Well, yeah, it's strictly from eBay, because I did a video just a few weeks ago about just vintage and how to go about getting them and where I've had a lot of success and a place that you can get them. And I'll talk about that. But honestly, and for a while it was more often than not. I was unfortunately getting bottles where you just know, like you did the video on polo, and I sent you the pictures of the vintage polo I got.
Yeah.
That one is pristine, and it's from this company in Canada, La Parfumée, and they're not cheap, but they are a fine fragrance store, and you can tell it's a group of people that love what they're doing. And I would buy from them without any hesitation whatsoever, because it's always going to be pristine. eBay, it depends. If it's a fragrance seller, you're probably going to be fine. If it's just someone that happens to have it, like when I got my initial polo, it was a lot of 2 vintage aftershaves, a vintage fragrance, and then 2 vintage aftershave balms. And the balms and the fragrance, the EDT, were horrible. The aftershaves were fine, but it was only $80 for all of them. And I'm like, well, whatever. That some people would charge well over that for just one. But
True.
That was where disappointed. So I wanted to look for another one, because what the opening is just, it smells terrible. When it dries down, it's a little bit better, but
Yeah, that is the risk we all take with them. But I think more often than not, I find that they are okay, but there's a significant chance that they won't be. So there's not always a lot you can do. But as Kellen rightly says, if you check out the seller and they seem a knowledgeable perfume person, that may be a good sign. So yeah, look out, guys, on eBay. There's some great bargains out there, but be prepared that it might not be as it should be. Okay, superb stuff so far. You've made me now think I need to go and buy I want the full bottle of one that smells good of Boss Sport, actually. And
it's
course,
so good.
Worth saying, the phenomenon of the so-called sport fragrance was just being born then. We had, I think, Sport de Paco Rabanne was one of the first, if not the first, to have the word in the name. There was a Kouros Eau de Sport, believe it or not, and there's an. Oh, do you? Oh, I'm jealous.
Yeah,
there's even
I have a picture on my Instagram. I did a video on the sport, so like forgotten sport fragrances. You know what? I think the reason that's not around or didn't last that long, it smells exactly like Kouros. It's slightly lighter. It's not that much different.
I've heard this about that. There was even an Antaeus sport cologne from Paco Rabanne.
Never tried that.
I want that. Yeah. I've got a sneaky feeling it's the same kind of story, that it might be very similar. But always on the lookout for that one.
There's a Santos de Cartier sport that I have too. That one's like a lighter spice. It's cool to have. It's in a plastic bottle, and it's a plastic sprayer bottle. I have that as well. Wow. I'll send you some photos of them.
I need that. Yeah, I love the concept of the sport fragrance. I think it's pretty much died out now. They just call them aqua or cologne versions now.
Cologne. That's a big one. Yeah.
It means the same thing, but the trend has changed to branding. Okay, loving this stuff so far. What's up next, please?
All right. Well, we can't not talk about this one. So this one I got again from that. I have a couple different vintage versions, so I'll show them all the different years. But the most pristine and the oldest one, obviously, Kouros by Yves Saint Laurent. This one is just probably it's among my favorite, if not my favorite fragrance. Like I have Caesars, I got Aqua de Selva, I love those. But this one is amazing. And this one is a Sanofi. You can see the bottom here. Let me see there. So, and I got another one. This one on eBay. This one was one I won on a bid. This is also 100 ml, but this is a 2008. So it's a L'Oreal version where this is Parfum Corps. And then I got this one on eBay. Same thing. This was one seller had it $35. And they said it was a certain percentage full, but you can see the lines like right there.
Yeah.
And this one's in perfect condition as well too. This is a 50 ml. This is the Sanofi or Parfum Corps, however you say it, whichever one as well too. And then talking about Kouros, my dad, he was over at my house for dinner one time. This is last summer. And he's like, oh, I had that fragrance. And I was just arguing with him. I'm like, no, you don't. I've never seen it. I would remember it. And then he went home and then he sent me a picture and he had this. And it's a Splash Eau de Toilette. This is the oldest thing that I have. The funny thing about it, it's an EDT. There's no logo on the bottom. There's nothing. I don't even know what that means. There's, some information on the back. But this is the oldest one. And this one is not 100%. But Kouros doesn't really go bad. I've noticed. Like once you put it on, it's a little off-putting in the beginning. The top notes are a little spoiled, but then when it dries down, it's Kouros to the core. But you can even tell the difference in the bottle look, like the way how the difference in whiteness for this one, these two, like this is like a pearl eggshell white, and it's like a smooth ceramic, where this is a little bit like a different material. I don't know, but and then of course I have a bunch of the ones that are currently made without the silver shoulders.
Oh, you do that as well? Okay, right. Would you say that the modern, so guys, if anyone doesn't know, if you don't have the silver bit around the top, then that's the non-vintage, whether it's kind of white around the top. Would you, because I've not spent much time with the modern version, would you say it's still a good fragrance to pick up even if you can't get the vintage?
Yeah, absolutely. If you can't get I mean, I get all these because I love this one. Yeah. And I do reviews and I collect them and I love it, and I'll wear this, and I think you can wear Kouros any time of year because it smells so good in the air. It's fantastic. But that was the first one I ever had was my first review way back 2 years ago was the current formulation. Yeah, it smells fantastic. This one is just, again, turned up a notch. It smells pretty much the same, give or take. I'm sure there's someone out there say no, it's X, Y, and Z, but I'm not going to take the time to dissect it that much. But obviously, if I could pick, I would pick the vintage. But if you can just get that one, and it's discontinued in North America temporarily, it's no longer available in North America. Wow. It's off their website. So somebody told me that eventually it gets brought back. It's only a temporary thing. So that's why I stocked up on it. I have it's the deodorant spray, the aftershave, the shower gel, all that stuff.
It is an immense titan of men's fragrances of all time. And I mean, it's you can tell a real fragrance person if they kind of really attune to the different eras, and they just talk about them as if we should all know them, like Parfums Corp and the Sanofi. But I've mentioned it a lot before on my channel, but there's a great article which I'm guessing you may have seen on the website called Raiders of the Lost Scent.
Yes,
which if anyone wants to know, that is your kind of guidebook of different eras of Kouros, and it tells you all this, what to look for on the bottom of the bottle and stuff, because within the vintages there are different eras, and I've also got a couple of I'm actually lucky enough to got the original Paris version, which I got for a really great price on eBay. It was someone just selling it as Kouros who didn't know it was vintage, and I think it was actually unsprayed. When you spray and it takes a few for the air to get in and it comes out. Through, so it had been as sealed as it could be for 30-40 years. So it's a great one, and if anyone wants the vintage, there's so many made back then. It's one you're probably going to still be able to find a vintage if you take your time on eBay, and it may not be extremely highly priced. So vintage fans, get yourself some version of Kouros, and you may get a vintage if you're keen to. And of course, we just talk about it as being really powerful, but it is a masterful composition. It's very complex, huge note listing, and it's not just, oh god, it smells really strong and like a hairy chested guy. There's a lot of sophistication in that creation, isn't there?
If you wear that, like I've seen, like if people were right for granted, kind of like, I'll look at some of the things as it's interesting to see what other people think. It's this can't be worn today. I wore this to a beach club with my friend. I wore denim to a beach club with you can wear those scents as long as you carry yourself. People, they smell good. They were never made to smell bad, and that's one of I think is the most fun part about fragrances like this, because it's not like everything else, and it's gonna absolutely set you apart, and it'll last, and it's gonna it'll step right over top of the person wearing Sauvage or whatever, and there's nothing wrong with that, but this is to me the be all end all and one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time, for sure.
I absolutely agree with you. Fashions come and go, but class is permanent, so that is still a great fragrance. Okay, I'm glad that you included that alongside some less well-known fragrances. So now I'm very curious to see what's next.
Let's talk about this one. Actually, I have I got a few more, but this one this is relatively new to my collection, but it's one that I think smells really good, not expensive, and you can still find it. I don't know if it's being made or not, but there's a lot out there, so it's still easily available. And it's Pour Homme by Enrico Kovari. So this scent is, I believe it is 1984. You can see the bottle there. And it's kind of like a cross between, it's very green in the opening, mossy pine. It's kind of like Czar by Van Cleef & Arpels, and a fragrance called Borsalino. And the dry down of Borsalino, the opening of Czar, and it's really, this is an interesting one. Let me get another test strip here too. So, yeah, it's just a really woodsy aromatic fragrance, and it's just very 80s. It's like a well put together, well-dressed guy wearing something like this. It's a great everyday fragrance too. I don't think it really matters what season you would wear this one in. It smells really nice. There's kind of a sweet dry down to it, but the opening is very green and mossy, and it combines a fragrance that I don't own, but I have samples of, which is Borsalino, and then one that I love, which is Czar. And also a little bit of Paco Rabanne Pour Homme too. I think a little bit of that too. It reminds me of that.
And I've heard of this one before. I haven't picked it up yet, but you're the second person who's come on the channel and raved about it. So just so I get the name right there, Enrico. Could you hold it up again, please?
Sure. Enrico Kovari. So there you go.
Enrico Kovari. Is that an Italian designer? Is that an Italian brand?
I thought that was cool. It was a lesser known Italian fragrance. Yeah. It looks like it's still made in France though, but it looks like the designer is Italian. Essentially, I thought that one was cool.
Yeah, still available quite affordably, that one. And yeah, what a decade it was. But there is a definite theme of these very kind of masculine, green, dry, woody fragrances, but all kinds of different variations on that theme. And I'm definitely intrigued to pick that one up. Okay, and sorry, you gave us the year? Was it 84?
1984. Yep, 1984 was that one.
I remember fondly watching the Olympics in Los Angeles. Bit before you were born, but yeah, it was it was a fun time to be alive, and that was a great Olympics with the Americans had Carl Lewis in his prime. He won, I think, the 100 meters and the long jump gold medal. We used to have people who could do stuff like that back then. It was fun times. Anyway, enough history. What's the next selection?
This one is one that I reviewed this year, and it's a 1988 it's an aromatic fougere, but very green. It's by the house of Loewe, so it's Esencia Pour Homme. And this one, to me, if you could imagine think of like Ralph Lauren polo for men, polo green. If that one had a sport version of that one, this would be it. This is what that would smell like. Like, remove the heavy tobacco and tone it down a little bit and make the dry down less heavy, a little bit more fresh. That's exactly what this smells like. And it's such a green, mossy fragrance. I love this stuff. And this one, I had the aftershave. I mean, if you can kind of see, I've used quite a bit of the bottle. I don't really know if you can tell because it's kind of dark green, but this stuff is great.
Yep. A sport version of Polo Green, you say?
That's what I go as a way to describe it for somebody, because it has that greenness in it, and and when it dries down though, it's a little bit lighter, and I really like it, but it's very masculine, and it's it's got the same look, the green and gold. They kind of I think the presentation probably copied off of it, because this is 88 and what, it's 10 years, a decade after that was released. Polo, because that's what, 78, I think, or something.
Yeah.
So but they share a lot of similarities, but this one just kind of flushes out, like almost filters the really heavy notes in that. And this one, it's a little bit lighter. It's still very green. Still, someone that has never smelled polo would probably think that this is still over the top. But it's really, really nice. And they have a full body line that you can get to. The aftershave I have is a spray, and that one's vintage. But you don't need the vintage with this one. In my opinion, I think it smells excellent as it is. Yeah. And it's there's a couple different versions of it, but the one that I got, this one was on eBay, and it was easy to find. There was a ton of different sellers, all had it all around the same price, between like $40 and $50 a bottle. So not cheap, but not terrible.
Very reasonable, for a real classic fragrance. I mean, I was just thinking that, which was a completely wrong thought. I thought, they should have done a sport version of Polo, but of course they did. But it didn't really. It was unconnected in smell, wasn't it? It was a completely new fragrance.
It was like its own thing. Well, they have this. There's this, and I have a little bottle of it too. It's a plastic bottle. It's called Polo Sport Splash. and it's polo green, but it's in a. I wish it's in the other room. I would go run and get it, but it's
so they
and it's,
did.
I have they did, but it really wasn't a commercial success. There's bigger bottles too, like 16-ounce splash bottles, and I want to buy one eventually. But I just like, sometimes it's like, how many times could I have just a similar version of the same scent? I have a lot of polo vintage and current, but I probably end up still doing it. Who am I kidding? And it's like, apparently what I read it was like a giveaway, like not a novelty, but like a promotional item when they would set up in stores and, hey, if you buy X amount of items, you get a free sports splash. And it was like, it's like, think of a cologne version of the Eau de Toilette, and that's what it is. It smells identical. And in my Forgotten Fragrance Sport Edition video, I talked about that one. And it's cool, but there's nothing that much different. It's just a lighter version. That's all.
Okay, great stuff. Well, another great pick there. Thanks, Esencia Loewe. What's next?
All right, so this is why I just in case I had an extra fragrance if we didn't want to count this one, because this is the 2016 re-release of the 1980 aromatic green Jules, or Jules, however you want to say it. This is one of the strongest ones. Again, the strongest fragrances in my collection. It's got like this almost fuel opening along with like the leather and fur. And this is the 2016, so I can't imagine what the vintage would smell like. I've seen the prices for them, and they're wow, yeah, they are unbelievably high. And again, that's a gamble at that amount of money, that dollar value, to how good it's going to be, especially when this one performs and smells just like it came walking out of the 1980s. But this stuff is really strong. I think I've seen a video you did on this one a couple years back, and I remember watching that before I bought it, and I got it right off of, I bought it off of, I think either Bloomingdale's website. It came to me the next day. Awesome fragrance.
Yeah, what a great re-release that one is. Yeah, it was 2016, as you say, 1980 original release, and one that's I think they still make it, but sometimes it's there to buy, and sometimes I can't see it to buy online. So I don't know about you, but I think it's quite hard to get even this reissue, isn't it? Did you find that, or?
Oh, I just searched it right on, and it came up right. You can see the detail on this with the Christian Dior logo there. Really nice looking bottle, classic, and the beautiful amber juice. For me, it was simple. It was like I got it as if I went on any mall website, major mall website, and it was there. And it actually came to me the next day, which is like because I'm in New Jersey and New York are not far away, so that's probably where it came from. It was shipped right there, or it could have been from a North Jersey warehouse or something like that.
Yeah.
So, this one's really strong. Again, this is one that is beast. The beast mode, the performance on it projects. It's really strong, very green, and leather. That's what I get a lot out of it.
Yeah. Oh, it's brilliant. You're absolutely right. Yeah, it's a really, really good fragrance. It smells absolutely beautiful. I'm lucky to have about 20 something mils left in an old 100 mil version, as well as having the new one. But my two versions smell quite, a lot of similarities, but there is a difference. But I don't know, especially I think once you get a splash bottle that's over half empty, I think more and more air is likely to get in there, apparently. So it's a bit like you said with Kouros. Even if it does age, it still smells really good. But I suspect that it may have changed quite a bit over the years. So it kind of smells like old juice, but not in a bad gone off way. But I think some things like Kouros and probably old Jules, or Jules, how you say it, there's something about them that they don't go off in a bad way. We kind of think of them as like fine wines, maybe. I don't know.
They get better. They get better. Kouros, you can even see like the yellowing on there. Like you can see how you can tell it's old. Kouros legitimately turned, like I'm imagining. And like the one that I got, like these vintage ones, this one came in a tester box, and that company, La Parfumée, they keep it pristine. So whereas on eBay, you don't really know. This one happened to be a hand-me-down from my dad. But this one, I wouldn't ever really need the vintage, because I think this one is just fine. And I've never experienced it, so I can't miss what I've never tried.
Yeah, it's really, really superb. And a lot of times, if it's a company who do a good job on the reformulation, you may be better off, because you don't want to miss out on some of the lovely crisp top notes. And they've all got bergamot and things and lemon oils in them. And those do inevitably sort of disappear over the years. So don't kid yourself that vintage bottles always smell better, because it's not always the case. And like you, I've got an aftershave splash that again was sort of inherited off. It was actually Claire from the Smurfy Girlie's dad's. So it literally, awesome. I never used that old thing in the bathroom. I was like, give me. But yeah, it's half empty aftershave. still stronger than most eau de toilettes or
That's
intense
funny how that works
eau de
back then,
parfums. Yeah, it's insanely good stuff. Okay, do we have more left?
Yeah, I'll make them quick here.
No rush. I just wasn't sure how many you had. Yeah, I didn't set you a number limit, so keep them coming.
So okay, excellent. This one, original Lacoste by
Ooh.
Lacoste. So this one is an excellent green fragrance. This is again the tennis wooden tennis racket, white shirt, white shorts, white sneakers, headband. This stuff is great. They actually do have an eau de sport. I remember I talked to you about that one. I think the last time I showed it, I think it was off the video. But this one is just so. We're talking about green. Doesn't really last more than 4 or 5 hours, but it smells fantastic. And just the old bottle looking there, the built-in sprayer. I really enjoy that. The green and the alligator, real just quintessential Lacoste. You can see the box there as well too. I noticed that at one point they were selling this on Nordstrom Rack website this year. Another someone that I speak with on Instagram and I both bought it, so I bought a backup bottle of it because I thought that was cool. That there's so it may still be made or they have a lot of stock of it because it's not expensive. You can still get these for under $30.
Yeah, and just to help people out, because there's so many different Lacostes. I think this is just Lacoste by Lacoste, right? Yeah,
exactly. Just Lacoste eau de toilette is what it's going to say. So you can see the
be careful, there, guys, because there's a lot of Lacoste. I think there may be another Lacoste white or something, but this is just Lacoste by Lacoste.
Yeah, they have a pour Homme, but that's not this. That's a different looking bottle. This one you can tell. I don't think they have any with a built-in sprayer, so that's the key to look for finding this one.
That was another 80s thing. The sprayer integrated into the bottle design. We love it. It's the way forward. Okay, next up.
Santos de Cartier. I love to talk about this one. One that isn't green. You know what I mean? This is a real kind of like a dark cigarette tobacco. The owner of a strip club would wear this one. And it's got the sweetness to it, and it kind of an incense, church incense a little bit. This is an awesome scent, but it's a really masculine scent. I love it. This is a newer formulation. I have the concentrate version. That's also a newer formulation. I think the older one had the built-in sprayer. I just could never find it. I think I bought one on eBay, assuming it was that because that's what the photo was, but this is what it came like, and I was just like, whatever. But it smelled awesome, so I just felt like keeping it. I don't have any body line products for it, but this stuff is great. Simple bottle, but it's a really distinct smell, and it's a really just strong, great for nights out, maybe in the cooler weather, your fall and your winter, definitely. But it smells excellent.
Yeah, potent stuff that I've never actually got around to buying a bottle, but smelled it a couple of times in department stores. And as soon as I picked it up, I was like, wow, that's a memorable scent for sure.
Absolutely. Only Cartier I have. I don't have any others.
Yeah, interesting. Of course, Cartier, really kind of upscale diamonds house, and I think that there's a type of watch called a Santos de Cartier. I think
there is.
It's like that, isn't it? So, really, really interesting brand to check out, and that one, one of their major powerhouse releases from was it 87, 88, something like that.
Santos was 81, actually, from what I saw.
Oh, sorry, right.
So this is an older one. Yeah, this stuff is strong.
You're gonna cost me a lot of money because there's about 5 that I think are almost essential additions to my collection now. Okay, what's up next?
That's all I got for right now. Okay. That was all 11 of them. So
that is a fantastic top 11, and you've squeezed them into a very short space of time. So well done to you, and I feel like you described them brilliantly. So what a great selection of fragrances! What a decade it was for fragrances. Definitely a decade where men smelled like men, whatever that means. But the conception of what masculinity was back then was a little bit different to what we have today. And whatever you think about that general subject, I think the fragrances that they came out with because of that were absolutely fantastic. And interestingly, some of the women's fragrances also were real powerhouses, but they were very floral, and they smelled like the women with the big hair and the big shoulder pads kind of looked in a way. There was no half measures back then, and that's what we love about the 80s, I think, when we look back. So great times. What a fantastic list. And I really do urge everyone, because there's some of these fragrances and many others have been dealt with in more depth by Kellen on the channel, which I think is essential viewing for fans of old school fragrances and many other types of fragrances too. So I guess that brings us to the end. It's early Friday evening for you. Slightly later
Yes.
Friday evening for me. So probably both of us will be turning our thoughts to a little bit of rest and relaxation now. Well earned and much needed. Are you cracking open any champagne as you did after our last video, I think?
Definitely tomorrow, because tomorrow I got some celebration thing for a friend of mine I'm going to go do. So that's going to be from pretty much noon all the way till Sunday. So that'll happen today. I'm probably going to lay low. I'm going to do some exercise maybe, and then make some dinner. That's probably the extent of my Friday night.
Okay, well, it sounds like you're going to be having a good weekend, and I'm off to crack open a strong beer now. So we'll leave it there. It's been an absolute pleasure to be joined by you again. Everyone watching, discuss what we said in the comments down below. We'll see you in the next video, and let us know what decade, perhaps, if he's willing, you'd like Mr. Sense of South Jersey to cover next time. Shall we go back to the 70s? Shall we do the 90s? Discuss. That's it for tonight, guys. See you in the next video. Remember, whatever you're doing in life, let's project. Bye-bye.